Hey guys, tonight we drift down the Nile, under a sky so heavy with stars it feels like it might collapse under its own glitter. There's no breeze, just the hush of dusk pulling across the reeds like soft silk. You're barefoot on warm stone, toes brushing powdered sand that's still holding the day's heat. Around you, murmurs flicker between men in linen tunics, bare-chested, sun-leathered, faces creased by time and salt and river smoke. They're loading something heavy, obscene in scale. Pyramid stones, each as long as a camel and twice the weight of a family's silence. You probably won't survive this, by the way. The ancient Nile wasn't designed for tourists or gentle strolls. It swallows crocodiles for breakfast and whispers riddles to people who don't sleep right. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is over there. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're handed a clay jug of water. Well, water-like, infused with lemon balm and something slightly resinous. Myrrh, maybe. It's bitter in a soothing way. You drink it in silence as the last rays of Ra skim the horizon, catching on the oar shafts that shimmer like liquid bronze. The air smells like linen, firewood, and the thick, almost fruity breath of the Nile. Behind you, dock workers finish stacking the final slab aboard a flat-bottomed vessel that rides low and silent. There's no fanfare, no shouting, just a gentle nod from the captain. A man with a beard like braided rope and eyes that have seen enough storms to know better than to curse the wind. He doesn't speak, not because he's unfriendly, but because the river doesn't like raised voices after sundown. You board quietly, taking a place near the rear, between two crewmen who smell like cedar oil and sunburn. One's humming something without notes. The other tightens the knots on a cord looped with tiny shells, each etched with symbols you can't place. The pattern resembles the mathematical spirals of marine shells, nautilus shapes that recur in everything from galaxies to cabbage. You try not to stare. You fail. The boat shudders as the stone settles, and the current catches the hull like a breath taken in slow motion. You're moving. The first stretch is gentle. The water laps rhythmically, as though playing some forgotten percussion game with the hull. You're just beginning to relax, knees drawn in, chin tucked, when you notice something off, the glow. It's not moonlight. The moon isn't even up yet. It's a pale green shimmer near the water's edge, like someone spilled glow paint into the Nile. The crew doesn't flinch, no pointing, no whisper of alarm. But you hear it, beneath the splashes and creaks, a soft sound like distant kelp fronds brushing against each other underwater. Not possible here, but you hear it all the same. One of the older boatmen leans toward you, voice barely louder than breath. "That's the breath of happy," he says, eyes not meeting yours. You ignore it, like bad dreams. You're not sure how to respond, so you just nod. Of course, the breath of happy, totally normal. Now scientifically, bioluminescence isn't unheard of in freshwater. It's rare, yes, but not impossible. Certain cyanobacteria and algae, under specific conditions, emit a soft, pulsing glow. Usually this happens in warmer climates and stagnant waters with ample nutrients. Exactly the kind of ecosystem the ancient Nile could have supported. But this glow, it seems aware. It curves toward the boat like it's watching you. Fringe theorists, usually the kind with unsettling YouTube thumbnails, have suggested that the ancient Egyptians may have observed these glows and incorporated them into river rituals. They claim early texts refer to living water in tongues of light. Mainstream scholars brush this off as poetic metaphor. But researchers still debate whether some of those texts were actually field observations. Your eyes adjust. The boat glides along a ribbon of shifting silver. And you realize you're not the only one watching the glow. The crew is humming again, soft, in sync. The boat rocks with it. The sound isn't music. It's more like a measured vibration, one that aligns with the oar strokes and, oddly, with the pulsing light in the water. You drift closer to the edge of the barge. Careful, you lean out, fingers brushing the surface. It's warm, viscous almost, but not unpleasant. The glow intensifies where your hand dips in, like ripples responding to thought. You look up. One of the men is staring at you now. Not angry, just knowing. He shakes his head once. Not a warning, a reminder. You sit back, and as if on cue, a deep, slow wind unfurls across the river. It doesn't touch your skin directly. It just moves things. The water lilies, the sails overhead, the bones in your ears. The sun is gone now. The Nile stretches ahead, dark and glistening like a ribbon inked across eternity. And still the crew doesn't speak above a whisper. In modern science, the idea that sound influences biology isn't new. Sonic frequencies can guide the movement of particles, shape patterns in water, even stimulate plant growth. It's called cymatics. And while most archaeologists scoff at the idea that ancient Egyptian boatmen used low-frequency chants to communicate with water, some aren't so quick to laugh anymore. The wind shifts again, and the glow fades just as suddenly as it came, like it ducked behind some unseen reef. You realize you've been holding your breath. You exhale, long and slow. The man beside you offers a strip of dried fig. You take it without speaking, sweet, tough, grounding. The first star appears overhead, then another. You watch them in silence, unsure if they're actually stars or something else entirely. The Nile stretches out like a black silk road. The pyramid stones lie still as tombs. No one has spoken above a whisper in over an hour, and the boat sails on. The second star to the east twinkles oddly, as if winking at your doubts. You shift on the low wooden bench, its edge worn smooth by decades of quiet passage. The night has settled in like a heavy shawl, thick with the scent of river mud and sweet resin drifting from an unseen burner. The oars barely touch the surface now, barely need to. Some invisible current has taken over, drawing the vessel as if it knows where you're going better than the crew does. You glance over the side. The light is back. This time it coils around the hull like mist, but wet like liquid fire. A pale green-blue glimmer, bioluminescence. Not impossible, but not exactly expected either. Freshwater bioluminescence is rare. In modern biology, we know certain dinoflagellates and cyanobacteria can glow when disturbed. They're more commonly found in the sea, in places like Mosquito Bay or the Maldives, but they have been observed now and then in rivers. Still, you weren't expecting the Nile to light up like a shy lantern. The crew doesn't react. Not really. One of the oarsmen reaches over the side, cups some of the water in his palm, and lets it drip between his fingers. Each droplet glows for a breath longer than physics should allow. The youngest boy among them, barely 12, with a shaved head and eyes too old for his body, leans forward. "You must not follow the shimmer," he murmurs. "It leads to where breath forgets the body." Okay, that's totally fine. Definitely not unsettling. Another crew member, older and marked with tattoos of reeds and fish hooks, pats the boy's shoulder. Not correction, just reassurance. You get the sense they've all heard the same thing whispered under different moons. The boatman nearest you reaches beneath the seat and pulls out a bundle of papyrus sheets wrapped in oilskin. He unwraps it with reverence, revealing a map, not drawn but pressed. As he unfolds it, the surface shimmers faintly under the starlight, the lines marked not in ink, but in dried algae that glows faintly with the river's own hue. You peer closer. The path isn't straight. It's a winding, looping trail that doesn't match any modern river map. You recognize spirals. Spirals within spirals. Fibonacci again. The same mathematical pattern you noticed etched into the shell necklace back at the dock. Could this be a navigation system based on light? A luminous trail mapped not by stars or shoreline, but by river glimmer. Fringe theorists, yes, those same YouTubers with loud thumbnails, suggest ancient boatmen once followed bioluminescent trails to sacred drop points. It sounds ridiculous, until you're watching a boat glide across a glowing track, like it's skating on skyfire. The boy reaches into a small pouch and pulls out a powdery resin. He sprinkles it over the side. Within seconds, the glow intensifies. The water swirls in brighter tendrils, looping around the boat like vines reaching towards something warm. The man with the map hums, low, one note, long and even. The others pick it up. No words, just tone, resonance. You feel it in your molars. Now here's where mainstream science raises an eyebrow. Acoustic resonance is real. Sound waves do move objects, especially water. There's evidence that certain frequencies can stimulate plankton to move or pulse in rhythm. But the idea that ancient Egyptians used this in concert with river biology, that's still up for debate. Researchers still argue whether the texts describing the river that answers in music are metaphorical or mechanical. But here tonight, you're leaning toward mechanical. The map glows brighter. The boat shifts direction slightly, no rudder used. It's like the river heard the song. You sit back, awash in this silent performance of tone and tide. The breeze picks up, just slightly, and with it comes a new smell. Not unpleasant, but sharp, metallic, like lightning trapped in wet silk. The boy is now lighting a small clay lamp that burns without fire. More powder, more glow. The water brightens again. You glance at your own reflection and startle. For just a second, you see someone else. Not you, not quite. A face similar but older. Tired eyes, painted cheeks, a crown of reeds. Then it's gone. You blink. No one else reacts. The whisper hum continues. You try to join in, but your throat locks. It's like the sound has rules and your body hasn't learned them. One of the men tosses a pinch of date seeds overboard. They scatter on the glowing water like stars falling backward. You look up. The stars are still there. But now you can't help wondering if the ones below are answering. And then you hear it. A whisper. Not close. Not crew. Not yours. It's right beneath the boat. You freeze. Spine locking. Eyes wide. It's not a word you know, not even a language. It sounds like wind through bone reeds. But it means something. You can feel it, like your stomach remembers it from a dream you haven't had yet. The map man stops humming. The water dims. He rewraps the map, tighter this time. No one looks at you. They're quiet now. Deep quiet. The boy starts to whistle, a new pattern sharp and rhythmic. It doesn't rise above a whisper, but the air listens. You realize something crucial in that moment. You're not the audience. You're the passenger. Whatever just spoke, it wasn't for you. The boat glides forward as the glow fades again, swallowed by the vast belly of the Nile's nighttime current. The crew relaxes by degrees. So do you, but only because you have no choice. You lean back, the wooden bench now pressing into your shoulder blades. The stars are more plentiful now, impossibly so. You feel like you're drifting across a galaxy made of water and old breath, and somewhere beneath the surface, something is watching, waiting, listening. The wind shifts again, just a little, just enough to remind you that you're moving, not because you're rowing or because the river insists, but because something unseen beneath the surface wants you to move. Your hand brushes against the side of the boat again, this time slower, more deliberate. No glow, no warmth, just water. But you swear for a split second, the liquid pulls back, like a muscle twitching away from contact. A current emerges, subtle, coaxing the boat slightly off its gentle course. "Don't resist," murmurs the man with the eye tattoos, his voice like sand sliding down silk. "It's giving something back." You look at him, and he just shrugs, like he didn't say anything. You don't ask for clarification. Out here, answers arrive in strange shapes. The current strengthens. Nothing dramatic, just a slow shift in the angle of motion. The boat drifts gently toward the east bank, a place shrouded in reeds tall enough to hide elephants and dark enough to suggest stories best left unconfirmed. The captain makes no move to correct the drift. The boy hums a new pattern, lower now, calming, lullaby territory. You notice how the reeds ahead begin to sway, just slightly, as if leaning in to listen. And then you see it, a curve in the river, a tiny inlet with no visible entrance, masked by reeds and shadows. The boat glides straight toward it. You don't remember seeing it on any map, not even the glowing one. Yet everyone acts like they've known it was coming all along. You slip into the cove, the water changes, it's thicker here, slower. The kind of liquid that makes sound feel distant, like you're dreaming through cotton. The moon's reflection ripples unnaturally. You could swear the stars are watching you more closely now. That's when you notice the current is moving against you. But the boat still drifts forward. Something's pushing. The crew doesn't seem alarmed, not even surprised. One man begins softly tapping a wooden bowl with his fingertips, producing a pulse, like a heartbeat. The others pick up the rhythm without speaking. Palm taps on the hull, stone against wood, chin tapping chest, like some ancient version of sonar, primordial rhythm to guide them in. Science tells us that rhythm and pulse matter. The human brain responds deeply to patterns of vibration. Studies on ancient navigation suggest indigenous Pacific Islanders used wave memory, the motion of swells refracted around islands, to find land with no maps at all. Could this be something similar? A freshwater adaptation? Researchers still debate whether the Nile ever required such precision. After all, it's a river, not an ocean. But this cove? This curve of impossible current? It doesn't obey standard cartography. You're not afraid exactly, but your breathing slows instinctively. And then the water around the boat moves. Just a ripple at first, then something more deliberate. The surface pulls in odd directions. It reminds you of the way a magnet affects iron filings, movement that's invisible in cause but precise in effect. From the far edge of the inlet, something emerges. At first you think it's driftwood, then you realize it's palm fronds, braided together into a kind of net, floating just beneath the surface. It's not snagged, it's placed. You reach toward it, but the boy catches your hand midair. "No," he whispers, "that's for the river." You nod. You weren't really going to touch it. Not really. The crew shifts position, guiding the boat slightly to the left of the net. You glance down and see that the fronds aren't floating randomly. They're laid out in a perfect spiral, each loop just a little tighter than the last. At the center, a dark patch. You squint. It might be a rock or a hole or something alive. So you decide not to stare too long. Another whisper rises, not from the crew, from the water again. This one is different. Not language, not song. It sounds like memory. You suddenly remember a dream from childhood. Standing in ankle-deep water at night, the moon fractured into 1,000 shards, and something below the surface whispering your name. The boatman next to you exhales sharply. You realize you weren't the only one who heard it. The rhythm picks up, softer now, almost playful, like the Nile is giggling. You look back at the frond spiral. It's gone. Just water now, smooth and dark, like it never existed. The crew resumes their gentle tapping. The boy hums. The moon rises higher. You've left the inlet. Back in the main channel, the current resumes its usual sluggish flow. The air feels lighter. The stars blink a little less intently. You're not sure how long you were inside the cove. Could have been 10 minutes. Could have been hours. Time is sticky here, like honey, or a good nap. The boat picks up speed. The captain finally speaks. "One stone gone," he says, his voice like bark steeped in wine. The others nod. You count again. The cargo looks unchanged, still massive, still weighty, but apparently something was delivered, somewhere. The man with the eye tattoos offers you another strip of fig. You take it gratefully. It tastes brighter now, sharper, like something hidden inside has woken up. The crew relaxes, shoulders slump. Breathing steadies. A few even smile. But you stare back at the place where the spiral net disappeared, and you wonder, what else has the river carried back? The stars are brighter now, though you could swear the sky is somehow darker. The contrast sharpens everything. The boat, the water, even your own outline, as if some invisible painter has traced every edge with a wet brush dipped in moonlight. You adjust your position. The bench creaks softly. Across from you, the map man begins folding a fresh sheet of papyrus. But he's not drawing tonight. He's watching the sky. More precisely, he's watching the blinking. It starts subtly, like a misbehaving star, winking once or twice every few minutes. Then another does the same. Always the same rhythm. Blink, pause, blink, blink, longer pause. It's too clean to be random. You glance at the others. No one seems alarmed. A few are even tapping the pattern out on their knees, almost absent-mindedly. The captain stands. "Keep count," he says, not to anyone specific. And that's when the boat shifts. No sudden jolt, just a barely perceptible turn. Like a horse responding to a silent hand tugging the reins. You realize the blinking isn't just sky nonsense. It's a code. The man with the fig strips leans close and murmurs. "We read the stones by sunlight, the water by moonlight, in the sky by blink." "Of course you do." He smiles as if sensing your internal sarcasm. He isn't offended. He expects it. Back in the modern world, people have speculated about the navigation methods of ancient Egyptians for centuries. Some claim they followed shoreline markers or built cairns along the banks. Others argue for magnetic stone alignments. But fringe historians believe in a different system, one based on star blink mapping. That is, observing the atmospheric scintillation, the twinkling of stars, and correlating it with water movement. Wild, right? But when you're out here, wrapped in quiet darkness and slow breath, even the most outrageous ideas feel perfectly logical. The boy speaks again. "It's not the stars," he says, picking at the hem of his tunic. "It's what they reflect." You frown. "The water?" He shakes his head. "The ones who live below." Your heart does that uncomfortable squeeze thing. But before you can ask more, the captain raises his hand. The entire crew goes still. The air tightens, like it's holding its breath. And then the sky blinks again. But this time, it matches a pulse in the water. You feel it, beneath your spine, in the arches of your feet. A rhythm, blink, ripple, blink, ripple. You're moving in sync now, not just with the boat, but with something larger, something layered beneath your ordinary understanding of space and motion. The stars blink, the river ripples, the boat turns. No one speaks. But you get it now. They're not steering. They're following. A different oarsman, lean, all elbows and shoulder scars, reaches into a pouch and pulls out a polished stone disc. He holds it up to the sky, aligning it with the blinking. The light passes through small notches carved into the disc, refracting into faint pinpoints on his face. A constellation. No, a map. You lean in and see faint symbols etched along the edge of the disc. Like a sundial and a compass, and a star chart had a very quiet baby. "Star chimes," he whispers, to measure silence. You don't ask what that means. You're afraid it will make less sense if explained. He points at one of the lights and speaks a name. Ripet, then another. Jepsh. You recognize none of them, but the others nod like he's naming old friends. Mainstream astronomy doesn't include these stars. They're not in your app. They're not on your phone's little sky maps. But here, they feel ancient, important, a local dialect of the cosmos. He turns the disc. A slight adjustment. The crew adjusts their posture. Left foot forward, chin tilted, everything in sync. You feel like you've joined a dance you didn't know you'd already rehearsed. The captain nods. A satisfied sound hums low in his throat. They're on course again. You glance down at the pyramid stones, massive, veined with old cracks and newer tool marks. One of them, just one, has something unusual, a faint line of what looks like glass cutting through its center. Closer inspection reveals it isn't glass at all. It's a layer of crystallized salt. Odd. The stone isn't from a salt mine. It's standard limestone, harvested from quarries near Tura. So how did salt get inside? Fringe geologists have speculated that certain pyramid blocks were bathed intentionally in salt-rich water, perhaps to preserve something, or to tune their resonance. Acoustic experiments on modern replicas have shown that salt can dramatically alter a stone's vibration frequency. Researchers still debate whether the Great Pyramid's internal chambers were tuned for resonance, possibly using limestone of differing densities. But the Whisper Network, the one you're now firmly inside, clearly believes it. You tap the crystal line gently. The stone hums, just faintly. A note you can feel in your chest more than hear. You look up. The stars blink again. The captain raises a hand. The rhythm changes. You're turning slightly now into another narrow tributary. This one's thinner, cloaked in tall grasses and silence. The sky blinks less here. The water speaks louder, and far ahead, so faint it could be imagined. You think you see a light, but not from fire. Something greener, something familiar, something waiting. The green light ahead pulses faintly, like a heartbeat heard underwater. Not steady, alive. It flickers, pauses, swells again. You're not sure whether it's a firefly cluster or something far stranger, something older. Either way, it's drawing the boat forward. The current obliges. The captain lowers his hand, no command needed. The crew shifts subtly. A few tap their thumbs in a specific rhythm against their palms. 3 short, 2 long. It's not musical, it's functional. The boy stops humming. Everything is still. You're passing into the narrowest channel yet. On either side, papyrus stands like guards, thick and tall, their hollow stems creaking in the windless air. You can't see beyond them, only feel. And what you feel is pressure, not crushing, more like a tension. Someone or something knows you're here. The boat passes beneath a natural arch, 2 leaning palms interlaced at the top. You duck slightly, though the space is wide enough. Reflex, or maybe respect. The green light strengthens. Then out of the shadows something sings, but not a voice. It's the stone, the pyramid block, the one with the crystallized salt line. It hums, a soft tone, like the ringing you hear after staying too long at a concert. But this isn't in your ears, it's in your bones. The boy looks at you. Sometimes they remember dusk, he says. You don't ask who they are. The boat slows to a drift, entirely unsteered now. The oars rise, resting horizontal. No one paddles, no one speaks, and still you glide. The green glow now surrounds the base of the pyramid stone. It moves like tendrils, almost plant-like, coiling up along the edges of the slab and disappearing beneath its base. You lean closer, and the glow backs away like startled plankton. Bioluminescent organisms are reactive. They glow when disturbed. But this is selective, aware. In modern biology, we know bioluminescence has evolved independently at least 40 times across different lineages. Fireflies, jellyfish, certain fungi, even some sharks use it for mating, defense, or hunting. But what purpose could it serve here, in a channel no map acknowledges, on a night with no moon? Fringe microbiologists, yes, they exist, have proposed a theory that ancient waters rich with microbial life might have stored data in chemical light patterns, a kind of organic Morse code, passed from droplet to droplet. It's speculative, wild, but standing here, watching green light cling to a stone bound for a pyramid, you find it's not so hard to believe. The captain reaches into a small clay jar and removes what looks like a lump of dark moss. He gently squeezes it over the water. A drop falls. The glow flares, not brighter, but wider, as if absorbing the offering into its pattern. Then something bizarre happens. The boat slows, the air thickens. And for just a few seconds, barely enough to be sure, the stone hums back, a low harmonic tone that echoes outward, bouncing off the water, the papyrus, the night itself. The boy closes his eyes. "They're germinating," he whispers. You have no idea what that means, but it feels right. The crew begins a movement now, practiced and silent. They open narrow wooden boxes stored along the hull, revealing what look like miniature stone bowls. Each one contains dried plant matter, lotus petals, tamarisk shavings, slivers of sycamore bark. They float the bowls on the glowing water just ahead of the pyramid stone. As the current carries them forward, they begin to spin, not randomly, clockwise, all of them. One crewman whispers, "She's hungry." You blink. "She?" The boy nods solemnly. "The stone. She remembers the garden." "Sure, of course she does." Now, in ancient Egyptian texts, there were references to sacred stones that blossomed when fed with river scents. Scholars often interpret these metaphorically, but archaeobotanists have long been fascinated by the Nile's role in preserving plant knowledge. Seeds recovered from tombs have sprouted after thousands of years. Some even suggest there were methods, now lost, for triggering blooming through temperature, light, and yes, even sound. Researchers still debate whether certain stones found near pyramid sites had ritualistic functions related to agriculture. But here, tonight, it's no longer a debate. In one of the flower bowls spins toward the pyramid block, slows then stops, perfectly still, glowing beneath the salted groove. The humming increases. Another bowl tips gently, releasing its petals onto the slab. They shimmer, then dissolve into mist. The light dims. The current shifts. You're moving again. This time toward a shadowed platform nestled beneath a cliff of reeds, barely visible. You squint and realize it isn't stone. It's wood, smoothed and blackened by centuries of water and ritual. Floating but still, anchored somehow. The boat glides into place beside it. Two men rise. One places a hand on the pyramid stone. The other places a hand in the water. Together they count. One whisper, two, three, then silence. The light vanishes, and the stone is lifted. You don't see ropes, you don't see pulleys, but the slab rises, slowly, steadily, as if the water itself has chosen to let it go. A thump, soft, final. It's delivered. One stone gone. No fanfare, no chant. Just weight exchanged for silence. The men step back. The boat shifts again. No one acknowledges the moment, but your skin knows. Your breath knows. Something happened. The current stirs once more. You're moving, leaving the platform behind. And ahead, somewhere beyond the veil of reeds, you feel the next whisper waiting. The boat floats backward at first, as if unsure which direction is forward now. The reeds part with a sigh, not from the wind, but from some internal gesture, like they're making way for you because they've been told to. No one rows, no one steers, and still the vessel turns, slow as a yawn. You're back in the wider river, but it feels narrower somehow, like the night has folded in. Overhead, stars dim slightly, as if blinking in slow confusion. Or permission. The boy begins to hum again. But this time it's not for the boat. He lifts a reed flute, small and hollow, worn at the mouthpiece. He plays 2 notes, then stops. You wait. He plays 3 more, then stops again. There's no tune, no melody, just a rhythm. Notes like pings on sonar, testing the air, or something below it. The man beside him taps his foot once. The signal is acknowledged. You glance ahead. Nothing but dark water and the slight shimmer of starlight against ripples. Then you see it, a second boat, moored to the far bank, empty, ancient, its hull eaten by time and silt. But it rocks slightly, too much for a dead vessel. Something is responding. The boy plays again. 4 notes now. The reeds nearby sway just a little too eagerly. Then from across the water comes a reply. A whistle, not from lips, from something else, thin, reedy, not quite human. The boy lowers his flute. The man beside him takes out a bundle wrapped in silk, delicate as moth wings. Inside are dozens of thin reed whistles, each cut at a different length, some curved unnaturally. He selects one, then another. He hands one to you. You hesitate. He waits. Fine. You take it. He blows his gently, one low tone. You mimic it. The sound is strange in your own mouth, like it didn't come from you. Your chest vibrates slightly, as if the whistle isn't blowing air, but memory. Another reply, far off. Then another. Closer. They're surrounding you now. Not boats, not animals. Just sound. Soft. Curious. Patterned. One boatman begins to tap his fingers in the same beat as the whistle cadence. Thumb, pinky, middle. Rest. Repeat. The captain finally speaks again. We're nearing the mouth. You glance at the map, man. No map this time, just silence. Now, scholars have long debated how information traveled along the Nile, especially during construction of the pyramids. It's assumed visual markers and verbal instructions guided much of it. But several papyri mention the silent calls of reed and wind. Most write this off as poetry, yet certain fringe archaeologists believe these references point to a coded, nonverbal communication system, one developed among boatmen who worked at night, when speaking was forbidden by superstition and secrecy. In acoustic science, reed instruments can produce frequencies that carry well across water, especially in low humidity. A coded whistle language would have been entirely plausible, efficient and eerily quiet. The boy gestures toward the bank. You see a row of reeds, taller, darker than the others. Their tops have been stripped, their stalks hollowed. They aren't growing here. They're planted, on purpose. You drift closer, and as the boat passes through, each reed emits a faint, barely audible note. The air moves through them like a pipe organ designed by wind. Music, not composed but grown. One of the boatmen calls it the garden that speaks when passed. Sure, that seems perfectly normal now. The boy pulls out another whistle, this one shorter, and mimics a note from one of the wind reeds. It responds. You nearly drop yours. The man with the tattooed hands taps the deck and says, every tone has a twin, and every twin has a story. Okay. You blow your reed again, matching the garden's sigh. You listen. No reply this time. Just silence. Then the boat jolts. Not hard. Just enough to spill a water bowl near the cargo. Everyone freezes. The mapman kneels and touches the deck. He whispers, it's listening. The cargo doesn't move. The pyramid stones rest as they always have. But the light is back. This time it glows beneath the reeds, pulsing faintly in a mirrored pattern to the ones above. It's as if the boat is passing through a tunnel made not of wood and water, but sound and light, a symphony that requires no ears. The boy lowers his whistle. He speaks to you directly now. The ones before us couldn't write down what they knew, so they sang it into the plants. You nod. Of course they did. Botanical bioacoustics is a field still in its infancy, but even modern researchers have begun detecting measurable sound responses in plants. Roots growing toward vibrations, leaves shifting under certain frequencies. There's still debate on whether this constitutes communication, but the question lingers. What does a plant know of sound, and what does it do with it? Your boat slips from the garden's reach. The notes fade, but not the feeling. Ahead, the channel opens slightly, and there, waiting in the shallows, is a small carved idol, half submerged but unmistakable. A crocodile, but with a human face, and inside its mouth a reed flute. The boy whistles once more. The idol glows briefly, just along the edges. Then stillness. The crew exhales as one. The current picks up again. You leave the garden of whispering reeds behind. But your hands still buzz from the whistle, and somewhere beneath the water, the reeds are still singing, though not for you anymore. They've already moved on. You drift in silence now, but it's not the kind that feels empty. It's the kind that hums under the skin, the kind that carries weight, like the pause between two notes in a song that no one's written down yet. The reed whistle lies cool in your lap. No one asks you to use it again. You get the feeling that you're no longer expected to make sound, only to listen. Up ahead, the river bends, lazily curving westward, and the current slows once more. The air grows thicker, not with heat, but with tension, like you've reached a part of the Nile where time folds slightly. You turn to look over your shoulder. That's when you see him. Near the rear of the boat, standing at the edge, is a man you haven't noticed before. Tall, thin, wrapped in loose linen that moves as though caught in a breeze you can't feel. His head is shaved smooth, his arms crossed behind his back. But what stops you, what hooks something deep in your ribs, is his eyes. They're the color of the Nile at midnight. Not blue, not green, not black. They are river-colored, ever-changing, reflective, as if they've seen the water from beneath. You blink. He's gone. No one else reacts, not even the boy. You rub your eyes. Maybe it was just a reflection, a trick of shadow and torchlight. But the boatman beside you mutters, "He only shows up when we're nearing the deeper bends." You glance back. Still nothing. "Who is he?" you whisper. The man shrugs. "Riverborn. We call him that because he's always wet, but no one's ever seen him swim." "Right. Perfect." You look down at the water, smooth as glass again, except for the faint ripples that trail alongside the boat, like something is pacing you just below the surface. There's an old Egyptian tale, recorded only once, scratched into the back wall of a granary in faded red ochre, about a boatman who was born in the river, not beside it. A man who never aged, never slept, and never left a ripple behind. Most Egyptologists dismiss it as myth, a personification of the Nile spirit. But a few fringe linguists believe it could refer to a real person, or something close to it. A kind of river oracle, a whisper carrier, passed from one generation of boatmen to the next. Researchers still debate whether these stories point to an actual human tradition, like a guild or caste of silent navigators, or if they're simply symbolic placeholders for the river's mysteries. Tonight, you're not debating anything. You felt him watching. The boy walks to the edge of the boat and cups his hands in the water. He doesn't scoop or splash, just waits. A moment later, he lifts his hands. They're empty. But you can smell something. Not fish, not algae, cypress, sharp and slightly sweet, wood sap and memory. You watch as he closes his hands around the scent and breathes it in, slow. He looks over at you. He left that for you. Of course he did. You nod, solemnly accepting this utterly nonsensical gesture as if it's part of the nightly routine. The next moment, a soft thump echoes under the boat. Everyone looks down at once. Then they smile. The tattooed man leans over and lifts something from the shallows. A bottle. Ancient, clay-sealed, covered in silkweed. He places it in your lap. For the dreams, he says. You run your fingers over the seal. It's etched with a symbol you don't recognize. 3 waves interlocked, surrounding a single dot. No writing, just that. The boy speaks again. Some say he collects them. Others say he just keeps the ones people forget. The man with the fig slices adds, most people don't remember their offerings. You will. You tuck the bottle carefully beside your feet. It hums. No joke. It hums. Not loudly, just enough to let you know it's still alive. Then the wind picks up. A real breeze this time. It skips across the water like a fingertip drawing circles on glass. You glance back. There he is again, the man with the river-colored eyes. He stands at the bow now, facing forward, arms at his sides. Not moving, not blinking, just there. You want to ask again who he is, what he wants. But something tells you that's the wrong question. Instead, you whisper, are you guiding us? He doesn't nod, but the boat turns. The wind follows, and the next channel opens, narrower, twisting, thick with shadow. As the boat eases into the bend, the moon slips behind a cloud and everything goes dark. Not scary dark, restful dark, like the world exhaled and forgot to inhale again. Someone begins to hum again, low and wordless. And then you see it, just beyond the edge of vision, near the shore. Another pair of eyes, not human, glowing, wide set, but not hostile, just watching. The man with the river-colored eyes doesn't turn. He already knows they're there. You don't ask. No one does. The Nile has too many stories for just one night. So you lean back, feel the breeze against your cheek, and listen for the next whisper rising from the water. The stars return slowly, like careful guests. The cloud passes, and you find yourself between 2 walls of tall grass again. Only now the sound has changed. It's subtle at first. You might mistake it for rustling leaves or distant insects. But then it syncs with the motion of the boat. An ebb, a pull, a faint pulse. Not quite music, but not random either. And you realize something strange. The Nile is breathing. The water rises and falls in a rhythm you can feel in your knees. Like standing too close to a sleeping animal the size of a city. Every breath of the current has shape, a pattern. And yet, this is not the sea. The Nile is an inland river. It doesn't have tides, at least not like oceans do. That's what the textbooks say. But the boat shifts again, slightly upstream, without wind, without rowing. The current reverses for just a few seconds, then settles. You glance at the crew. No one is surprised. The map man rubs something between his fingers, bits of ground ochre mixed with beeswax. He presses it to the deck, smudges a spiral into the wood. The tide turns, he says, but the moon never asked permission. Right, that clears it up. In modern hydrology, we know that tidal effects can reach into rivers, sometimes over 100 miles inland. In Egypt's case, ancient texts reference the rivers turning every 28 nights. Most assumed it was metaphorical. But geological records have confirmed that during certain flood seasons, lunar gravity can subtly influence flow near branching tributaries. Researchers still debate whether this influence extended far enough to alter navigation routes during pyramid construction. But tonight, here, inside this hidden channel, the debate feels irrelevant, because the river just breathed backward. The captain steps to the front of the boat and kneels. His hand touches the surface, not dipped in, just flat against the skin of the water. He closes his eyes. The boy kneels beside him, imitating the posture. You follow. The river is warm, but beneath the warmth, something cooler moves, not like a current, more like a thread being pulled. You glance at the moon, now back in full view. It's not above you anymore. It's slightly to the left, and yet the boat continues right, pulled toward a thin spit of land that wasn't there a moment ago. It's shaped like a crescent, barely visible. Covered in low reeds and black sand, the humming begins again, from below. Low, deep, felt more than heard. The pyramid stone nearest you starts to vibrate slightly, like someone whispered too close to a tuning fork. A sound rises from the sandbar. At first you think it's a bird, but the pitch is wrong. Then you see them. Tiny flickers of movement, silver flashes, darting through the shallows. Fish? No. Too fast. Then one leaps, arcs midair, and you see it fully. A beetle. But unlike any you've ever seen. Its back is bioluminescent, flickering with the same pale green light you saw earlier in the water. It flashes once, pauses, then again. 3 short, 1 long. Then another beetle echoes it, then a third. A sequence. The captain rises. Make the offering, he says. 2 boatmen step forward, carrying a small basket woven from date palm fronds. Inside herbs, feathers, and what looks like dried figs carved into geometric shapes. They toss the basket gently into the water. It floats toward the beetles, then sinks, unnaturally fast as if pulled. You feel something pass beneath the boat. Long, slow, the water stills, and then a faint glow pulses across the surface like a ripple from beneath. It expands outward in perfect circles, lighting the underside of the sandbar briefly, just long enough for you to glimpse something strange. Carvings, not on stone, on wood. Pillars embedded under the bank. Covered in glyphs, protected by layers of sediment and time. The mapman whispers, "The buried key." You realize what he means. This isn't a sandbar. It's a sunken dock, one that only appears during lunar reversals, those rare, debate-stirring moments when the Nile forgets which way to flow. And tonight, you've hit the window. He holds up a sliver of moonstone. He places it in your hand. Count the breaths, he says. You look confused. He clarifies. Hold it. Count. You do. 1, 2. On the 3rd breath, the stone warms. On the 5th, it pulses. You drop it instinctively. The boy catches it, grinning. It knows you now. Sure, that's comforting. The stone pulses again in his palm. This, he says, is how we read the tide's intention. Modern physicists have speculated that certain stones, particularly those containing feldspar and quartz, can emit piezoelectric energy when subjected to pressure or heat. It's fringe science at best, mystical nonsense at worst. But tonight, your palm still hums from the stone's pulse, and you're starting to care less about peer-reviewed validation. The captain motions forward. The boat pulls alongside the edge of the sandbar. A single beetle lands on the prow. It flashes once, twice, then flies off. That's the signal. A rope is lowered, not from the boat, but from the sandbar. You don't see who or what lowers it, but the crew ties it to the pyramid stone. Slowly, it begins to move, not lifted, not dragged, welcomed. The stone glides off the boat and onto the bank like an honored guest arriving late to a party that has already started underground. You wait for someone to cheer or chant or mark the moment, but no one does. They just breathe, slow and in sync. The boat, now lighter, bobs gently. You feel the river's breath again. Inhale, pause, exhale. The current shifts once more. You're moving away from the sandbar. The moon follows at a respectful distance. And far behind you, just for a moment, the glow of the beetles sketches a spiral in the air before vanishing beneath the tide. The river feels colder now, not unpleasant, just deeper, as if you've crossed a temperature boundary invisible to the eye. A soft chill rolls along the surface, brushing your ankles even though you're dry. You hug your knees closer. The boy notices but says nothing. You're far from shore now. Both banks have vanished into the dark, and the water stretches wide and silent. It's the kind of wide that swallows voices, which is maybe why no one's tried speaking for a while. Then the humming returns. This time it's different, steady, rhythmic, intentional, like something is knocking from beneath. The boat responds. A low tremor spreads through the wood, as if the hull itself is echoing back. You glance at the crew. They all sit straighter. The map man pulls out a stone disc, thicker than the star chime from earlier. He places it flat on the deck. It's carved with concentric circles, like a tree cross-section, but pulsing faintly under the moonlight. The boy leans in, presses his ear to it. Heartbeat, he says, and not just metaphor. You feel it too, low and slow, matching the pulse of the water. The tattooed man taps twice on the hull, then listens. A pulse answers, once, twice, then silence. You wait, then it starts again. Only now it's not sound, it's motion. The boat rocks in gentle waves, but not from wind or wake, from something rising. The boy grabs your wrist, not hard, just grounding. You follow his gaze. The surface of the Nile shimmers ahead, but not like before. It's convex, bulging ever so slightly. A dome of water, no higher than a hand's breadth, pushes upward. It doesn't splash. It holds shape. Then it breaks, not violently, but with a sigh, and up it comes. A carved platform, wooden, ancient, water-worn, floating, but anchored by something unseen below. It carries nothing but a circular pit in its center, filled with still water that does not reflect the stars. Just darkness. The captain whispers, "We're at the navel." You want to ask. You don't. Instead, you watch as the pyramid stone nearest the prow begins to glow, faintly from within, like a lantern lit behind stone skin. Then it vibrates. You place your palm against it. The vibration isn't random. It pulses in sevens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pause, repeat. The boy smiles. That's the frequency. Frequency of what? Her breath. Sure, of course. Her breath. The Nile, or the stone, or the whole planet. You're not sure anymore. You're also not sure it matters. A narrow bridge extends from the platform, flat planks bound by vine cords. It attaches to the boat soundlessly. No one moves, until the man with the river-colored eyes appears again. Just standing there. One foot on the boat, one on the bridge. He doesn't speak. He never does. He just waits. Two of the boatmen rise. Together they lift the glowing stone. No tools, no ropes, just hands and rhythm. The boat tilts slightly, then evens out. They carry it across the bridge. You follow without meaning to. The boy's beside you. His feet make no sound. When you step onto the platform, everything changes. The humming vanishes. The river disappears. All you hear is breath. Not yours, not the crew's. The river's. A deep inhale, an endless exhale. A silence between them, so vast it feels like a second sky. The men lower the stone into the pit. It doesn't touch bottom, it hovers, just slightly. The light from within pulses brighter. Then something beneath the surface stirs. The water in the pit churns, not upward, but inward, like it's swallowing itself. A vortex begins to form around the stone. Not violent, just persistent. The map man steps forward and holds the stone disc over the pit. The circles on it begin to spin, not physically, but visually, like an illusion, or a clock learning a new time. The captain chants now. Words finally, low and ancient. You don't understand them, but the water does. It rises, just a little, and wraps around the stone like steam coiling a mountain. Then the light stops. Not fades, stops. The crew exhales. The captain lowers his hands. The pit flattens. The stone is gone. Not submerged. Gone. You look into the water. Only your reflection stares back. And behind you, the man with the river-colored eyes, smiling. The platform begins to drift. The bridge retracts. You're ushered gently back onto the boat. No one says goodbye. The boy places a small piece of something in your hand. Smooth. Cool. You turn it over. It's pollen. Petrified, maybe. Ancient. Still golden. He whispers. It remembers where it bloomed. Botanists today often discover fossilized pollen in sediment layers, sometimes dating back over 10,000 years. This pollen has been used to track climate shifts, vegetation patterns, even migrations. But some researchers, particularly those on the fringe, have proposed that pollen holds memory far beyond biology, that its geometry encodes environmental emotion. Researchers still argue whether this counts as information. But tonight your palm hums, and you believe it. The platform slips away behind you, the vortex already gone. The heartbeat stops, and the boat moves forward once more. Lighter, quieter, but somehow fuller, as if something sacred has been exhaled. And you, lucky passenger, are still here to ride the next breath in. The river feels gentler now, as though whatever force guided you to the navel is satisfied for the moment. Like a host who's seen you off with a full plate and an approving nod. The boat glides forward again under its own power, sails untouched, oars stilled. The crew leans back, eyes half-lidded, as though resting in the hollow of some cosmic breath. You stretch your legs carefully, testing the silence. It holds. The boy sits beside you, playing with the ancient pollen grain in his palm. It rolls but never drops. His fingers seem to know its weight instinctively. You're wondering, he says without looking up, why it remembers. You tilt your head. He continues, pollen isn't just a seed, it's a map. If you press it gently, it shows where it came from. You squint. You mean, like geography? He shakes his head. No, like feeling. Modern science acknowledges that fossilized pollen is a data-rich structure. Its shape and trace chemicals can tell us what kind of plant produced it, how far it traveled, even what the climate was like. But the idea of emotional encoding, that's not in peer-reviewed literature. Yet here, under a sky thick with ancestral hush, it doesn't sound that strange. Ahead, the river widens again, and now you see it. You didn't before, but you do now. The layout. Not of the water, but of everything around it. The boat's wake trails like a root, snaking behind you. The way the tributaries loop and reconnect, like branches. Even the position of the moon overhead, it all aligns. Not by accident. You're sailing through what looks like the root system of a tree, only it's water instead of wood. The mapman places a fresh sheet of papyrus across his lap and begins to draw, but not with ink, with salt. He sprinkles it carefully, finger tracing lines that spiral, loop, double back. The salt adheres, forming a pattern that mirrors the river itself. You see it now, a route map. You ask, did they design it this way? He nods slowly. The ancient ones carved the land like a gardener prepares soil. The pyramids weren't just built, they were planted. You blink. He continues. Each stone carried nutrients. Each delivery followed the root lines. When all were placed, the pyramid bloomed, like a flower fed by water, light, and memory. You take a breath. That's a lot. But as the boat glides past another curve, you see a familiar symbol carved into the riverbank. 3 waves, 1 dot. Same as the bottle still at your feet. The same mark that glows, just faintly, when the moonlight catches it right. You're not just traveling a river, you're tracing a vascular system designed for more than transport. In ancient times, Egyptian priests were known to study the flow of the Nile as if it were a living being. Some texts call it the blue serpent, others the vein of Ra. Most scholars interpret this as poetry, but fringe hydrologists have noted uncanny parallels between the branching of the Nile Delta and human circulatory systems. Researchers still debate whether this was observed by ancient engineers or just coincidental, but your heart beats in time with the current now, and coincidence feels like a pale explanation. A whisper from the front draws your attention. The man with the river-colored eyes is back, kneeling, both palms pressed flat to the deck. The boy whispers, "He's listening again." To what? You start to ask, but stop. The boat slows. Another tributary opens on your left, narrow curved like a curled fern. The crew doesn't turn the rudder, doesn't adjust the sail. The boat drifts in. The boy drops a pebble into the water. No sound. The air here is heavier, cooler, not damp exactly, just old. You pass beneath a series of stone arches half submerged. Ivy drapes down from above, wet with river mist. Something fragrant hangs in the air. Not flowers, not herbs, earth, like a garden bed after the first rain in spring. One of the stones at your feet begins to hum again. Only this time the hum moves. It pulses from the back of the block to the front, like breath traveling through lungs. The map man traces the salt lines again, his eyes unfocused. He murmurs, "The lungs of the pyramid." You squint. What does that mean? He doesn't look up. Stones don't just build. They breathe. They pull memory from the water. Exhale it into chambers. Okay, but why? The boy answers before you can ask. To feed the root. You stare ahead. The tributary narrows, twists, winds into itself, and then opens again into a perfectly round clearing. You're in a circle of reeds now, each one standing unnaturally straight, their tops trimmed to equal height. Inside the circle, the water is still, no ripples, no current. The boat glides to a stop, dead center. The boy lifts your hand and places it palm down against the deck. You wait. Then, a vibration, subtle, not one you hear, one you feel. Under the boat, something pulses, in rhythm, not random, not mechanical, natural, alive. It beats once every 4 seconds. 4 seconds, pause, again. The tattooed man whispers, "The pyramid's heart is under us now." You raise an eyebrow. You mean beneath the water? He nods. You look down. You see nothing, just black water, but you feel it. That heartbeat, strong, steady, patient, as if it's been waiting for thousands of years just for this moment. And as the next breath of water surrounds your ankles and the whisper rises again from beneath, you understand. This isn't just a river. This isn't just a delivery. You're part of a system. A living organism made of stone, sound, water, and time. And you're moving through its veins. You rest your hand on the deck a moment longer, fingers splayed, letting the rhythm beneath you thrum against your skin like a subtle lullaby. It's not constant. It pauses every now and then, like it's listening to see if you are still listening back. The reeds around the clearing sway, though there's no wind. They don't lean in unison either. Each one moves on its own, like individual dancers following slightly different music. The air tastes different here, cooler, tinged with something mineral and faintly sweet, like wild honey left too long in stone jars. The boy stands. No whistle this time, no hum. He holds out a small bundle, herbs bound with reed and twine, dried lotus petals on top. You take it without asking. Sleep gift, he says. She likes dreams. You glance at the water, unsure if she means the river, the pyramid, the stone you can no longer see, or something older that floats between definitions. The boy nods toward the edge of the boat. Give it gently. You kneel and lower the bundle into the still water. It floats, just for a moment. Then it slowly sinks. No splash, no ripple. Just gone. As if swallowed not by liquid, but memory. The man with the river-colored eyes appears at the opposite end of the boat, one hand on the prow, watching the circle of reeds. He lifts a small object, an oil lamp, still unlit. He holds it above his head. The captain hums, low and even, and the crew joins in, tone by tone. A slow spiral of sound begins, so gentle you can barely tell where your heartbeat ends and the song begins. Then something blooms. Yes, blooms. At the center of the clearing, the water pulses outward, just once, and from beneath the surface something begins to rise. Not fast, not threatening, deliberate. At first it's just shapes, irregular, dark. Then the water beads and parts around edges. Edges made of stone. A platform, circular, rises into view. It looks like it hasn't seen sunlight in 1,000 years. Covered in moss, in minerals, in the glisten of deep silence. At its center, a shallow stone bowl filled with water that does not move. Not a single shimmer, like it isn't affected by gravity. The boy reaches down and removes his sandals. He steps off the boat and onto the stone platform. He turns to you. Come, you're part of the song now. You glance at the others. They watch but do not follow. You step out. The stone beneath your feet is warmer than expected. It thrums faintly. Alive in a way stone should not be. The boy kneels beside the water bowl and dips his fingers in. No ripple, but his eyes flutter shut. He whispers, "Now you." You crouch, touch the surface lightly. Still no ripple, but something shifts inside you. A tug, a soft echo. Then, images, not visions, not like dreams, more like emotional impressions. Warmth, sand between your toes, a hand brushing a fig leaf, the scent of honey bread. You open your eyes, the bowl is still. The boy smiles. She remembers you. You exhale, out loud. You hadn't realized you were holding your breath. The water begins to glow, softly at first, then brighter, not blinding, just enough to cast a gentle halo across the platform. The crew begins to sing, low, layered, wordless. A lullaby in reverse, unwinding memory instead of wrapping it up. The captain speaks finally. Each pyramid needed breath to awaken and sleep to remember. You don't speak, you understand now. This wasn't a supply route. This was a sleep ritual. The pyramid stones weren't just blocks. They were dream anchors, placed precisely. Aligned not just with stars, but with what the Egyptians called Ka, the soul's vital breath. The reeds sway harder now, catching the tones in the air and spinning them back in refracted echoes. The boy dips the herb bundle again. The water accepts it, and the glowing bowl pulses once, then twice, then stops. The stone beneath you softens. No, not literally, but it feels quieter, as though its purpose has been fulfilled for now. The boy rises. So do you. You step back onto the boat. No one speaks. They don't need to. The platform slowly sinks beneath the water. Gone like a blink that takes too long to finish. The boat moves forward again. Behind you, the circle of reeds sways once more. Not like dancers now, but like sentries bowing as you pass. Above, the stars return in fuller constellations. You've crossed a threshold, not geographical, rhythmic. Your breathing has changed, slower now, measured. You're beginning to dream while awake. And the boat, it carries you not through water anymore, but through remembrance. Stars above seem different now, not just brighter, but somehow closer, like they've dipped a little lower to join your silent passage. One of them flickers in a perfect rhythm, 2 long, 3 short, pause, then repeats. You glance at the map man. He's watching it too. Moon gardens, he murmurs. You furrow your brow. You're passing through one. You're not sure what he means until the horizon shifts, and suddenly you see it. The river curves again, revealing an inlet so perfectly round it looks artificial, a lunar mirror carved into the land. In the center of this bowl floats a circular platform of stone, almost black and highly polished. It reflects the stars so clearly, you feel like you're approaching a piece of the night sky that has fallen to earth. And then you notice the petals. They shimmer along the water's edge, pale and translucent, like moonlight had a favorite flower. Some drift lazily on the surface. Others are carved directly into the stone platform, obsidian blooms, each one etched with care, each aligned with a different star. The boat stops without instruction. You've arrived. No one speaks, but everyone prepares. The boy gathers a bundle of dried leaves, tied with a silver thread. The tattooed man carries a ceramic jar that radiates cold, even before it's open. You step off the boat and onto the floating stone. It holds firm, solid beneath your feet, but somehow you still feel it move, like standing on the back of something enormous that just doesn't mind your presence. The petals at your feet are organized in spirals, each one pointing toward a specific constellation above. You begin to walk the spiral, slowly as if guided. The further inward you go, the more the air changes, cooler, crisper, laced with something faintly metallic, like ozone before a storm. The boy joins you. These were gardens of the sky, he whispers, not planted with seeds, planted with reflections. Ancient texts from the Temple of Dendra hinted at sacred gardens that bloomed with the moon's eye, cared for by priests who rarely spoke. Scholars assume this was metaphor, a poetic image for celestial devotion. But some fringe archaeologists suggest that the Egyptians designed entire lunar ritual fields, where the arrangement of petals, stones, and scent allowed them to grow something beyond plants. Light memory, the boy says, unprompted, stored in obsidian, activated only when the stars are right. You kneel beside one of the carved flowers. It hums faintly, not audibly, but through your knees. The captain steps onto the platform now. He carries something wrapped in cloth. You've seen the shape before, a canopic jar, except this one isn't ceramic. It's glass, blown, imperfect, faintly frosted. He kneels beside the central bloom and opens the jar. Inside ashes, he pours them slowly into the center of the spiral. The moment the last flake touches the obsidian, a ring of blue light pulses outward across the petals. They shimmer once, then fade. Nothing more. The boy places his bundle of dried leaves at the outer edge of the spiral and sets them alight. The smoke rises, not upward, but sideways, curling along the spiral path, tracing each bloom with precision. It moves like it remembers the route, like it's followed it before. You inhale gently. The scent is indescribable, not floral, not herbal, more like stone warmed by ancient sun, clean, strange, familiar. The obsidian hums again, and for a moment the sky tilts, only slightly, as if the stars have leaned in. Researchers today know that certain crystalline structures can trap photons. Obsidian, while volcanic glass, has a unique ability to absorb and scatter light in chaotic patterns. Fringe physicists have speculated that under perfect conditions, moonlight, heat, and motion, it might even retain momentary impressions of what it reflects. Fringe, yes, but not tonight. Tonight you are standing in a garden that was never meant to grow anything, but to preserve the sky. The boy touches your elbow. He points to the largest bloom. You kneel beside it. Inside its center, a small depression, just wide enough for a fingertip. You press your finger in. The stone is cold, then warm, then silent. Your vision dims just slightly, not from darkness, from quiet. A hush settles over your mind, the kind you feel just before sleep or just after a profound realization. In that moment, you see something. Not a vision, not an image, more like an impression. An enormous garden, stretching not in land, but through time. Its roots made of memory, its blossoms made of stone, and breath and sleep. You pull your hand back. The bloom dims. The boy nods. She knows you now. Back on the boat, the crew waits, still and calm. You step away from the spiral, heart quiet, mind still buzzing. The captain closes the jar. He lifts it skyward for a breath, then wraps it again in cloth and sets it into a small wooden box. The petals around you have stopped shimmering. The garden is done blooming, for now. The boy hums once, the boat answers. You step back aboard. As you drift away, you look back at the moon garden. It seems smaller now. Not because it's far, but because it's folded itself shut, like a flower that blooms only when someone worthy is watching. And tonight, that was you. The river welcomes you back like a blanket pulled gently to the chin. Warm, a little heavy, and full of quiet promise. The moon garden recedes behind the boat without a sound. The water around it has gone still again, like it's sealing up a secret. The petals no longer shimmer. The stars blink without pattern. For the first time in a long while, the boat floats without glow, without vibration, without pulses from beneath. It is oddly peaceful. Then softly the boy asks, "Do you know what a hauling song with no words sounds like?" You almost laugh, but he's serious. He raises a hand and places it over his chest. "Like this," he says, and then he hums. No melody, no beat, just a tone. Long, flat, unwavering. One of the older boatmen joins him, then another. Within moments, the boat is filled with the strange vibration of wordless unity. The sound doesn't rise or fall. It hovers, neither sad nor joyful. Like a lullaby sung not to soothe, but to stabilize. The pyramid stone closest to the prow begins to glow again. Faintly, gently. You look down. The stone is moving. Not by push, not by rope. It shifts, sliding forward across the deck in time with the breath of the hum. You realize that no one is guiding it. No one is steering the boat either. Yet everything is moving together, a self-guided harmony. Archaeologists today acknowledge that music played a major role in ancient Egyptian ritual, labor, and ceremony. But there are fringe researchers, usually laughed out of grant funding, who propose something more peculiar, that tonal frequencies were used to reduce friction, allowing stones to move more easily over sand or even across water. It sounds absurd, until now. The hum continues and the boat responds like a feather floating across silk. The boy closes his eyes. His hum deepens. You try to join in. Your voice cracks. He nods. It's okay. You're not tuned yet. You feel like a clumsy instrument in a finely tuned orchestra. But you listen, and that's enough. The pyramid stone begins to tremble, only slightly. Then it lifts. You gasp, not by much, only an inch, maybe less, but it's hovering. And then, with a collective breath from the crew, it slides forward, completely unsupported, and stops at the very tip of the prow. The boy stops humming. Everyone else stops too. Silence returns. The stone settles. The captain raises a hand. It's time. The boat slides into a narrow inlet, wider than a canal, but still quiet enough to feel secret. At its end waits a simple dock, half submerged, covered in moss. No markings, no torches. Just there, like it's always been waiting. The humming begins again, but now it's only from the boat. You don't know how, but the hull is singing, a low vibration, like a throat clearing softly before a sacred word. The captain steps forward. He places both hands on the stone, then he breathes, once, deep, and the boat tilts. Not much, just enough. The stone slides forward and off the edge. You brace for the splash. There is none. The water accepts the stone like a lost puzzle piece clicking into place. No ripple, no sound, only stillness. The boat rights itself. The song fades, and then the dock begins to shimmer. Tiny lights, no brighter than fireflies, flicker along its edge. They move in patterns, like the notes of a song you can see but not hear. One by one, the crew lowers their heads. You follow their lead. You don't know why, but it feels right. The boy whispers, "The river remembers this one." You ask, "This stone?" He shakes his head. "This song?" In ancient ritual texts, there are references to silent canticles, melodies never spoken aloud, passed through lineage by posture, breath, and gesture. Many historians assume these were meditative exercises, but some believe they were functional blueprints, a kind of living architecture carried in the body, not in ink. Researchers still debate whether such techniques could have influenced construction or ritual transport. But tonight, you've seen a stone float on hums and land on breath. You believe. The crew doesn't cheer, doesn't chant. They just rest, as if each stone delivered is an exhalation they've been holding for generations. The boat turns gently in the current. You watch the dock slip behind you, now fully dark again. The lights have vanished. The boy leans against you, warm and quiet. "You did well," he says. "Not everyone can stay tuned." You nod, unsure if you should feel pride or confusion. Maybe both. The man with the river-colored eyes stands again at the rear of the boat, hands behind his back, watching the path you've left. He says nothing, as always. But the way the moonlight plays across his shoulders makes it look like he's smiling. The boy hums softly to himself, just a fragment of the old tone. This time, you hum with him, and this time, it works. The boat purrs beneath you. The water listens, and the next stone begins to glow. The glow from the stone at midship isn't intense. It's the sort of light you'd find at the bottom of a dream. The kind that doesn't blind, just reminds you where you are. It hums faintly, as if it overheard your harmony with the boy and decided you'd earned its attention. You rest your palm lightly on its side. It's warm now, almost body warm. The stone feels less like a mineral and more like a being, quiet, patient, impossibly old. The boat floats toward another tributary, this one wider than the rest, and flanked by embankments overgrown with reeds so tall they bow inward, meeting above you like an archway. Moonlight filters through, turning the corridor into a tunnel of silver and shadow. The crew grows still again. Then you hear it, a low, slow splash, far behind, followed by another, and another, steady, rhythmic, too even for fish, too slow for birds. You look back. At first there's nothing. Then from around the bend a shape emerges, long, low, moving just beneath the surface. Its back breaks the waterline occasionally, scaly, dark, glistening, eyes barely visible. A crocodile, massive, silent, trailing you like a sentry that forgot whether it's guarding or hunting. You instinctively reach for something. The boy gently grabs your wrist before it rises. "No fear," he whispers. "He's been here longer than the pyramids." You ask softly, "Does he follow all the boats?" "Not all, just the ones that still carry memory." The man with the river-colored eyes is already watching it, his expression unreadable, but completely calm. The boat glides forward. The crocodile follows. Not faster, not slower, just there. The map man opens a scroll, the only time you've seen one written with actual glyphs. He turns it toward you. It's not a list or a journal. It's a chant, made only of vowels. You raise an eyebrow. He nods. "No consonants, they scratch." "Okay." He begins to hum, Not with voice, but through the vowels in airy breath. The sound is barely there, but it ripples the surface of the river, and the crocodile responds. It dips lower, eyes just barely above the water, still trailing, still close. The boy opens a reed pouch and pulls out a small figurine, wooden, worn, shaped like a crocodile with a lotus in its jaws. He sets it gently in the water. It floats, circling once. The real crocodile circles once too, then settles back behind the boat. No closer, no farther, like it understood. Now, Egyptologists have written about the god Sobek, often depicted as a crocodile or a man with a crocodile head. He was both feared and revered, patron of fertility, protector of the Nile's bounty, and guardian of sacred waterways. Most temples to Sobek were placed along critical water channels. Some believe he represented not just crocodiles, but the primal intelligence of the river itself. Researchers still debate whether certain ceremonial transports included crocodile escorts, real or symbolic, but the alignment of these creatures with specific stones, lunar events, and tomb rituals has been noted in more than one ancient inscription. You now believe every single one. The glowing stone begins to hum in response again. The pitch is different, not a float hum like earlier. This one is rooted, lower, grounded, like a drumbeat muffled by silk. The boy looks at you. It's the last one. You blink. But there are 2 stones left. He shakes his head. That one, that's not a stone anymore. You don't ask. You wait. The boat turns once more. Ahead, the river opens into a quiet cove, so still it might as well be a mirror. You can see your reflection and something else, a structure, half submerged, a large square platform of black basalt, only a few inches above the waterline. In its center, a recessed square lined with green tiles. You don't need to ask. The boat docks without command. The crew, wordless, steps out. 4 men surround the glowing stone. They place their palms gently on its edges and begin to sway, not lifting, just sinking breath in motion. Then slowly they slide it from the boat. Not a scrape, not a sound. It glides like an idea, resting perfectly in the recessed center of the platform. And then it sings. Yes, sings. A sustained note, deep and resonant, that ripples out across the cove. The crocodile does not flee. It rises, fully out of the water now, massive, glistening. But it does not attack. It kneels, or something like kneeling. The song fades, and for a long moment, nothing happens. Then a single petal, white, translucent, falls from nowhere. It lands on the glowing stone and vanishes. The boy closes his eyes. She's full now. The platform dims, the glow recedes, and the final stone has been delivered. The crocodile slides back into the water, gone. The man with the river-colored eyes places one hand to his heart, then to the water, and nods once. The crew returns to the boat. You do too. This time it feels different. Not lighter, not emptier, but complete. The boy lies down beside you, arms folded. He hums once. The sound is a lullaby now. Not for the boat, not for the river, for you. The boat drifts silently back into the current, the stars now higher than they've been all night, as if leaning in to listen to the closing lines of a song they've heard every few centuries. The crew is quiet, relaxed, stretched out along the deck in various poses of peace. Even the boy has gone still, his chest rising and falling in a measured, patient way, as though he too is being rocked to sleep by the river. You sit upright still, but barely. There's a softness now inside your muscles, behind your eyes and your fingertips, as if some long tension you didn't know you were holding has finally let go. The water ahead is smooth, glass-like, but moves with purpose. Not fast, just sure. You peer into it, half expecting more glowing reeds or carved idols. But this final stretch holds only stillness and reflection. The stars above you appear below too, mirroring your quiet skyward gaze in a long, perfect ribbon of light. You catch your own reflection, and you look different. Not older, not wiser, but emptied of something unnecessary. The boat rocks gently, and from the far end, you hear the subtle clink of the sealed bottle from earlier, the one with the three-wave symbol in the quiet hum. It's still there, resting patiently at your feet, still pulsing, just once every few seconds. The map man leans over and places a second bottle beside it, smaller, sealed. You look at him, puzzled. "For what comes next," he says simply. You reach out. It's warm. This one doesn't hum, but when your fingers close around it, you feel a faint pressure, like a memory trying to form just out of reach. The boy sits up now and whispers, "Do you remember the dream?" You open your mouth, then stop. Because yes, you do. Not clearly, but the feeling of it lingers. Stone warmed by sunlight, water folded around breath, a crocus blooming in moonlight. You nod. The boat floats toward a narrow corridor, a break in the reeds you hadn't noticed until now. It's unremarkable, plain, and yet it feels final. The man with the river-colored eyes steps off the boat silently onto a patch of dry earth. You watch him go. He doesn't turn around. He simply disappears between two low walls of papyrus and is gone. The boy touches your arm. "Not everyone finishes the journey," he says, "but everyone carries part of it." You look around. The crew is slowly standing, gathering ropes, coiling bundles of cloth, folding memory like laundry. One by one, they lift the remaining items from the boat, the quiet bowls, the empty herb bundles, the unused reed flutes. Each is stowed carefully in a chest with no lock. The chest is carried to the shore by three of them. You rise, your body moving easily now, as if it too was waiting for this precise moment. The boy places the first bottle in your hands. "This one is he says. "And the other?" He looks toward the now distant moon garden. "That one's hers." You nod. Of course. He steps off the boat. You follow, and now the wind moves again, not with urgency, but with relief. You've done what you came to do. No fanfare, no final blessing, just a quiet knowing. The boat drifts away behind you. The water ripples once, then stills, and then nothing. Only sleep. Wind down the reeds no longer whisper. The stars no longer blink. Even the river has curled up like a cat at the end of a long, contented day. You walk along the quiet path now, bare feet brushing against soft, damp earth. The scent of warm stone and old water follows behind you like a shawl. A breeze lifts your hair just slightly, enough to remind you that the night still cares. Your fingers still tingle from where they touch the singing stone, and deep inside, something gentle is unfolding. A memory that isn't yours, or maybe it is, borrowed from the river, stored in the hum of a pyramid stone, and now quietly nested beneath your ribs. There is no need to unpack it. It will bloom on its own, much later. For now, you just walk. The lights of the boat are gone. The hum has faded. All that remains is breath and heartbeat, softened by distance and time. You pass beneath a low branch. A single flower falls. It does not land. It drifts beside you, then behind, then disappears. You step into a clearing. There's a small bed of woven grass and silk, just large enough for one. You lie down, not to sleep, not yet, just to rest. The moon sits just above the horizon now, round and quiet. its silver light stretching across the landscape like a lullaby with no words. The air grows heavier, warmer, softer, and with each breath your body sinks a little deeper into the grass. You close your eyes. The river continues its journey without you. You've left your whisper there, folded gently inside a breath. And now everything is quiet. Everything is slow. Everything is still. Thank you for watching and listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to keep exploring more mysteries in our next videos.